Hey, it's Sam from Cordova Woodworking. I designed this minimal side table and I thought it would be worthwhile to document the process on how I prototyped it, as I knew there would be a number of pretty unique challenges in the build. There's also a few design elements I really like. There's the recessed top, we've got exposed joinery, a convex underside to the tabletop, and the legs are pushed pretty far inward, which give it a really clever and dynamic look. I made the panel for the top just by gluing a bunch of white oak offcuts together. And I know this cost me a lot in labor, but I was just trying to keep the material costs down for this. I'm a small business owner, so I'm often making decisions that don't make perfect sense. I thought it would be cool to have like really nice wood shop sounds for this video. So for these panel cuts, I left my dust collection turned off, but it looks pretty stupid with all the dust flying everywhere and it leaves a pretty big mess. So I think for future videos, I'll just protect my health and safety and let the woodworking do the talking. To cut the top, I use the CNC with a straight bit, only cutting partway through the material. Then I create the recess by switching bits to a 1/2 inch ball nose. And I basically is just doing small light passes offset from the perimeter until I've removed about a 1/4 inch or 6 mil of material from the top. I make pretty quick work on the bandsaw router table to free up the top for my next operation on the CNC. I'm basically just trimming it out with the bandsaw, and then I use a flush trim bit on the router table. I'm back to the CNC to create the convex underside of the tabletop and the recesses for the legs, which means I'm milling from the opposite side that I was in the previous clip, basically a two-sided CNC operation. My main concern at this point is really just keeping things accurate and safe. So to keep things simple, I made a handy little hold down that kept the workpiece really secure, and I've even got it perfectly level, which was a nice win. My roughing process for 3D CNC work is pretty straightforward. I just use the same bit as for the finishing passes and remove material aggressively. To bore the through mortises, I made a handy little bench hold down for the top. I'm cutting the mortises from the underside, so I need a snug sacrificial backing to prevent any tear out on the actual top of the table. It's definitely a bit unconventional. You'd normally cut from the other side, but I'm just testing things out here and I thought there was a reasonable chance for success. I'll admit my method for getting the mortises at the correct angle was a little hasty, but this wasn't a project where I wanted to spend hours overthinking the perfect solution. Sometimes you just have to keep moving forward and figure it out as you go. So the mortises came out a lot cleaner than I even expected. They came out pretty much perfect. And, I think that's just due to having good tooling. I got a pretty nice drill bit to do that. And also just figuring out that clever way to get that sacrificial backing really snug on the tabletop, despite it even having that recess that added that extra challenge. So for the tapered legs, I followed from before and just glued some offcuts together to get the required dimensions before turning. I know wood turning probably gives you the most woodworking YouTube street cred in terms of video content, but a lathe was giving me some grief this day, and I was really just trying to keep this project moving forward, so I didn't really get any actual shots of the turning, so we're going to have to settle for some pre-process and sanding. So at this point, all 5 components of the piece have been made, and you can kind of see the finish line from this point. All I really need to do is wedge the tenons, trim them up, and do my final assembly and finishing. I've trimmed through tenons a whole bunch of ways over the years, and I find that this way is pretty effective. And if you're patient and do light small passes, you can get the job done pretty quick with really consistent, clean results. To cut the height of the table, I use a simple jig with a pull saw. The only really key element for this jig is that it stays rigid, which means making it kind of bulky and adding quite a bit of support at the base. For sanding and finishing, I just stick to my regular routine of sanding down to 120 grit, doing a grain raise, and then down to 180 grit. For my finish, I use a hard wax oil and apply it by hand. So overall, I think this was a pretty big success in terms of a prototype. A few things went even better than expected, which felt like big wins. There certainly are some efficiencies that need to be ironed out in the production process, but I had a ton of fun. I learned a few things, and if you've got any questions about the build, just ask below and I'll be sure to answer them. And of course, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. I'd love to make more videos like this in the future.